go. Let me get you in a place where I can see my notes.
Why am I muted? There, should be good.
I hear you.
All right.
Okay. Welcome in to a very special edition of TBL News, the video pod. I'm sitting here with Chris Cox. Chris or Christopher? Am I only calling you Christopher when I'm angry at you?
Yeah, pretty much. Or unless you're related to me.
Okay, well, I'm neither of those, at least at the moment.
Right.
So I'm here with Chris Cox. Fair to call you the voice of the Potawatomi Fire?
I think so. I handle all the play-by-play duties for them and home and away, so it's a lot of fun. And thanks for having me on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for joining me here. Look, the first thing I want to jump into, we were chatting a little bit before we tipped this off, to use some basketball lingo, about how the community, how Potawatomi County has taken to this new team they call the Fire. 18-6 last season in the regular season, bounced in a tough one to those dastardly Shreveport Mavericks, who are looking pretty sharp again, but you did exact some revenge on them. So we'll talk a little bit about that game, I think, too, in a moment. Okay. But first, tell me how the folks of Potawatomi County have taken to their currently undefeated Potawatomi Fire.
They've taken to them great. When we were talking earlier, I said the one thing that really helped is that they came in and they were really good, really fast. Potawatomi County, Shawnee, Tecumseh, Dale, which is a small community in Potawatomi County, rich basketball histories at the high school level, at the college level with Oklahoma Baptist University. So people here know their basketball. They know what a good team looks like. They know what it takes to win. And I think, when this team came in and TBL came to Shawnee, came to Potawatomi County, there might have been a little bit of hesitancy, like, not sure exactly what this is going to be. But with the team being really good, with TMO General Manager David Qualls setting up a lot of fun events at Fire Lake Arena, the community came out, the community enjoyed it, and it's been a blast. I mean, we had almost 1,100 people at our first home game, and that was Friday of spring break. So it's actually almost 1,200 people, I should say. And so it was a really good opening night this season, and I think it's only going to get bigger.
And so the what I call my fan listening at home understands about that number. 1,200 folks coming out to a game during spring break.
Right.
I'm sure people are familiar with the mega numbers that Oklahoma State football games and Oklahoma Sooner football games churn out.
Right.
That 1,200 number is nothing to sneeze at for a team that's entering it just started its second season. You're just getting the word out about the team. So
exactly.
It seems like the community is pretty down to be supportive.
Absolutely. They are very supportive. And I think you look across the central region, we have not only one of the most rabid fan bases, but also one of the biggest fan bases. And considering that we've only been in the league now, this is our second year, it's pretty good. And I think that the fans are really embracing it. And like I said, it's only going to get bigger, only going to see more people come to the games. And then hopefully it kind of spreads out. Shawnee is kind of a little bit, I wouldn't say isolated, but it's about 30, 35 minutes due east of Oklahoma City. So and it's kind of a little bit by itself. Potawatomi County is and Shawnee is, but we're getting fans from all around the county coming, and we're starting to get people, I think, from some of the other places that, even if they're having to drive 20, 30 minutes to come to a game, they're finding out about it. And they're coming. I know we've had some people come down from Tulsa, which is a solid hour-and-a-half drive. Had some people come up from Lawton, Oklahoma, which also a solid hour-and-a-half drive. So it's pulling people from all around.
It's becoming a destination, is what it's becoming.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Well, winning will do that, right? And
it will.
Great players who help you win will help you do that.
Exactly.
So speaking of one of those players who helps you win. There's this guy on the team. I think I got his name correct. I think it's Deshawn Munson. Has that name come across your desk?
It rings a bell.
It rings a
bell. Yeah. From, what was it, 12, 13 triple-doubles last year, basically a double-double in every single game. Already has 3 double-doubles this season. He's pretty decent basketball player, I'd say.
He's a pretty decent
also won the
player.
MVP last year.
He might have won the MVP of the league last
Right.
year, and maybe we've shared an article or two on TBL News about that.
A little bit.
I'm not sure. So Deshawn Munson, great guy, great player. As you mentioned, lots and lots of double-doubles. Also plenty of triple-doubles in there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So let me ask you, Chris.
I mean, he does everything.
He does everything indeed. And while he's doing everything, who's he reminding you of? That when he's not reminding you of just Deshawn Munson, because he is very much his own unique sort of player. But
you're right. He is unique, and we'll talk a little bit about how unique he is in a second. But he reminds me probably most of Russell Westbrook. He's a bigger point guard, 6'4", about 215 pounds, strong, wide shoulders, built a lot like Westbrook too. And he is so good at getting to the basket and finishing at the basket that it's pretty remarkable. I mean, admittedly, and he'll tell you this too, he's not the best shooter in the world, and neither is Russell Westbrook, but that hasn't stopped Westbrook from putting out a Hall of Fame career and averaging a triple-double, I think, in two seasons in a row. So Munson's a phenomenal player. He scores, he passes, he rebounds, he defends. I mean, he does everything, and he does it all really well.
No, you mentioned rebounding. We've cited some statistics in some TBL News articles about Deshawn Munson's rebounding. 22 boards, I believe he had last
22,
week.
22 rebounds a couple weeks ago against Rockwall. On the road. That was a team record. Followed that up, I think, against Little Rock just over a week ago with 15, and then had I think 12 against Rockwall this last game out, somewhere around there. So I mean, he's just absolutely on a tear rebounding, and he's just so good at rebounding and knowing where the ball's going to go.
So for the fan listening at home, you heard that right. That's 3 consecutive double-digit rebounding games. One of those games chalking up 22 boards. Yeah. What's this guy doing? That's so different. He's 6'4". He shouldn't be rebounding like this. From somewhat of a technical perspective, what's Deshawn Munson doing to grab all these boards, Chris?
You know, I think he has good awareness of where he is on the court, and I think he knows how to use his size. We talked about it, 6'4", 215. He's got long arms. He knows how to box guys out well and get in position. And while that's the technical side of it, I think what makes him such a good rebounder isn't necessarily technical things. It's more instinctual. He knows once that shot leaves the shooter's hands, whether it's his own shot or somebody else's, he knows where it's going. And he knows if it's going to be a miss, he knows where it's going to go off the rim and where it's likely going to end up. And I think, you can learn some of that. You can teach yourself some of that, but a lot of that's just instinct. And he just knows it. And kind of going back to that Westbrook comparison, I think Westbrook during an interview one time said the basketball is his best friend. And I kind of get that same feeling with Munson. The ball's his friend, and he's going to go and get that ball every time it goes up.
Speaking of friends, we had Deshawn on the podcast actually in the preseason. And he noted, which Qualls told me, he said, look, talking on podcasts, this isn't exactly my thing. We also had Lyle on the same day, and I think Lyle was quite the opposite. Lyle's ready to host the Tonight Show.
Absolutely.
But Deshawn's a quieter dude. As you mentioned, he's the reigning TBL MVP. What's your sense of what his teammates think about him? I'm sure they like him. Like, you're undefeated and you're a great player. You're going to be liked. But let's go, kind of a level deeper. Who is he to his teammates? What role does he play beyond the rebounds, beyond the assists, beyond the points, and in a leadership capacity? Where does he fit in?
I think he plays a couple kind of different roles when it comes to that. He, like you said, he's a quieter guy. He's not going to be overly demonstrative. He'll tell a guy if they're doing something wrong, or he'll correct it if needed. But he's very much a lead by example type of guy. He's going to put in a lot of work. He is going to play hard and give you 110% every single night. And I know that's not possible to give 110%, but still, he's going to do that every single night. And I think for the most part, and I think with that and with the fact that he's a really good player, it just people gravitate to him that way on the team. And I think people are more willing to match his competitive style, match his energy, because he, one, is such a good player, but also He is going to lead by example. He's not going to throw anybody under the bus. He's just going to go out, and as long as you want to win and he wants to win, you're going to be on solid ground with each other.
So no Michael Jordan, Judd Bushler face punching in 3-on-3 during practice stuff going on.
No, at least not to my understanding, not to my knowledge of it. I think again he'll let you know, and I know as talented as this roster is in the preseason and training camp, I know they had some intense practices and not saying that there were scuffles or anything like that, because I don't believe that there were, but there was, guys like to talk, and there was some of that going on, but it was nothing more than what you get from teammates. And I think the thing that speaks not only to Munson and his leadership ability, but all these guys as a team is they can have an intense practice. They can talk trash to one another, but then after they're done, they're going to go get lunch together. And that's what's great.
Do you get to see any of the practices, or are these behind closed doors, all these practices?
I have been to a few practices, not all of them, but I've been to a few, and it's interesting to watch. They don't always do a lot of 5-on-5 scrimmages. They do some, but there's a lot of drill work, a lot of play, working on their sets and their plays and all that kind of stuff. And then they do other type of games and skills, I guess, working on rebounding, working on passing. And you might have like a 4-on-3 drill or a 5-on-3 fast break drill, and the defense has to get a stop. And so it just makes that's where the competition really comes in with these guys.
Now that's pretty fascinating.
And they keep score. So, yeah.
So yeah, I did want to ask about Coach Dan Hoff's approach. And it sounds like, sort of a melding of the professional approach, which, you watch highlights of Phil Jackson's practices from back in the day, and these guys are playing 5-on-5 and he's letting them go. They are certainly working on sets and making sure they know the finer points of the triangle. But for the most part, you watch an NBA practice and it's like they're jogging up and down the court a little bit and playing some 5-on-5.
Right.
Sounds to me like Dan Hoff is really digging into fundamentals. Even with guys who are in their mid-late 20s, some guys in their 30s, but you're saying they're still doing the cone drill. They're doing lane slides.
They're doing paint touches. They're doing they're doing layup drills every single game to start the practice, shooting drills, rebounding drills, and I think a lot of that comes from the fact that Coach Danoff's background is in college. He's been coaching TBL now for 2 years, but his background's in college, and so he's used to teaching the fundamentals. And I think I think that's never going to go away. Now he trusts these guys to put in the work. He's not going to overly try to change things on these guys, because like you said, they're mid-20s to early 30s. A lot of these guys, they are set as the type of player that they are. A lot of their fundamentals in terms of the way that they shoot the ball, the way that they move, those kind of things, it's pretty much ingrained in who they are now. But he's always going to teach, and he's always going to try to improve these guys. And I think that comes from his background in college, of still molding young players at that point, 18, 19-year-olds, and helping those guys become better players. He's trying to do that, and he does it through more of a teaching type of method.
So clearly the team's responding. They're undefeated. let's not beat around the bush. They're mopping the floor with opponents right now. I mean, the last win was by what, 56 points?
It was, yeah. Team record 56 points, scored a team record 152 points in the game to get the win.
It's really something. And
it really is.
As great as Deshawn Munson is, and he is, something that I wonder is the team still undefeated, even if Deshawn isn't on the team? Which leads me to ask you about a guy named Guy, Chuck Guy. Tell me about Chuck Guy. First team All TBL last year. If he's not now on the team with Deshawn Munson, maybe he's in the broader MVP race discussion.
Absolutely.
Should he be in that discussion? Are we leaving him out? Are we mistreating the guy when we talk about his teammate Deshawn all the time and we leave him out?
I think we are, but I also think he's okay with it.
Okay. Tell me about that.
I think he's okay with it because they're 4-0. And that's the thing with a lot of these guys. You have Deshawn Munson, you have Chuck Guy, you have Lyle Hexum, who was Defensive Player of the Year last year. You have guys that have gotten a lot of individual accolades over the past couple of years in TBL, but they all haven't done what they want to do, and that's win. They haven't won a championship yet. They've gotten close. The Fire got close last year. Enid got close last year. But they haven't won the championship, and that's their goal, is to win. It's great to get the individual awards. They're not going to turn any individual awards down, but they're also not going to seek out those individual awards at the detriment of their team. And I think with Chuck, he really is, I said Munson, he leads by example. Chuck is the vocal leader. He's a great player in his own right, and people should follow his lead on the court, and they do. But he's kind of that straw that stirs the drink, so to say. He's the one that's going to make sure that guys are in position. He's the one that if somebody needs to not necessarily be called out, that's the wrong word, but if there's somebody that needs to, maybe have a little bit of a sit down, he's going to be that guy who sits down with them and talks to them and tries to get them back on the straight and narrow if need be.
So to distill it into a little bite-sized tidbit, Chuck Guy is the vocal leader on the team. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that about right?
I would say so. He and Munson are really the two captains of the team, but Chuck's the one that's usually talking with the officials if needed. He's the one that's out there for the pregame handshake and all that kind of stuff that you go through, because he is more of a vocal guy. He's also the guy that in practice is usually the one kind of ramping up the intensity with his chatter. And that kind of gets everybody else going. So I think people feed off his style of play for sure, but they feed off his mentality and that the vocalness that he brings.
So it's really a two-headed monster when you talk about leadership on this team.
It is, yeah.
It's the two of them. It's not a Batman and Robin scenario. They're
right.
I can't think of a good duo. That's just the way they're equivalent. But maybe Remus and Romulus. That's about the closest. Okay.
There you go. And I think too, the thing with Chuck that makes him, at least on this team, so special is he played with Coach Danoff last year in Enid. So this is his second year in his system. He knows it. I mean, he knows it better than probably everybody besides the coaching staff. And so he really is able, like you want your point guard to be, he's able to be that true floor general and that coach out on the floor. And he is.
So let's talk about another new guy on the team.
Sure.
We've mentioned him a couple times during this conversation. Lyle Hexum. Cool
reigning
dude.
Defensive Player of the Year, yeah.
Reigning Defensive Player of the Year. Well, I got a question about that. It's very interesting. So when we talked to him in the preseason, I said, what are you looking forward to, especially joining a guy like Deshawn Munson? He said, I'm looking forward to doing less. He was asked to do a lot in that Defensive Player of the Year season on the offensive end, too. He scored over 20 points a game, grabbed over 10 boards a game. He's blocking shots left and right. And he mentioned, again, he's looking forward to doing less on this team. So on the defensive side of the ball, he is statistically doing less.
Right.
Stats don't tell the whole story, but, he's recorded 2 blocks and 1 steal thus far this season. Yet the team's winning every game by a landslide. Talk to me about this different role that he's assumed on the Fire.
Well, like you said, stats don't necessarily tell the whole story when it comes to his defense. I think he probably had a couple more blocks that might have gotten registered as deflections, but that's that's kind of parsing things right there. But like I said, he's getting a lot of deflections, which are leading to steals. He's also not asked to guard the paint, guard the rim. Most blocks are going to come at the rim. And he's not asked to do that with a guy like TJ Maston down there this year. He's more out on the perimeter. So the thing with him and his defense this year, while he's not protecting the rim, he's still playing great defense. And he's at 6'8", 6'9", he's defending guys on the wing that are probably 2, 3, 4 inches shorter than him. So most of those guys, if they get the ball out on the wing and they see him there, they're going to pass it away because they don't have a shot. So he might not be getting the blocks, but people also aren't really trying to shoot over him because they can't, and they know his reputation. So he's still playing great defense and affecting the game defensively. It's just in a different way and maybe not as flashy of a way as it was last year.
Sure, he's like that cornerback that quarterbacks just won't throw at.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. He shuts down his area of the court in this case, and and that place is pretty much off limits unless a guy has to kind of just jack a shot up. And I think the thing that people, especially those smaller wings, try to think that they can do is they think maybe they can drive by him. Well, he's got length and he is quick enough that he stays in front, and they get in the paint, he's right there, and all of a sudden they don't have a shot again, and so they have to pass it back out.
So this has been awesome, Chris. I hope this is the first of several, maybe even many conversations that we'll have about this wonderful Potawatomi Fire team. Let me ask you, it's early in the season. The team looks great. I don't know how much time you get to watch other teams around the league, but there's a team over there in Wichita that looks pretty nasty.
They do look pretty good. Although we're the only undefeated team left. The Fire
You're
are the only undefeated team.
Yeah, they lost to Shreveport, right?
They did. Yeah, they lost to Shreveport. Which Shreveport's going to be better. They are not the team that we saw in that first game, and they're going to be another really good team. The Central Conference is going to be strong again.
Did the Potawatomi guys have that Shreveport game opening night? Did they have that circled on the calendar for a while? Were you guys looking for revenge?
I think they did, because a lot of this roster either played in the Central Conference, so they played against Shreveport last year, and the guys who played for the Fire last year and the guys who played for Enid last year were bounced by Shreveport in the playoffs. So I think there was definitely some of that of kind of circling that on their calendar and really wanting to make a statement. I also think that Shreveport, for whatever reason, might have came out a little flat, and I don't think that's. Again, I don't think that's going to be the case the rest of the season. I think that Coach Tucker down there is going to do a good job, get his guys ready. I know they brought in a couple guys that were on the team last year, brought them back, and that'll be good for them. But the Fire have made a couple moves as well to get better, including getting a guy who was on that Shreveport squad last year.
Right. No, exactly. Yeah. And look, I know I playfully called them the dastardly Shreveport Mavericks at the top of this. I personally don't think so. I think Coach Tucker does just a wonderful job and runs a classy organization. I mean, Parks is a brilliant player.
He is.
He's got to be in that MVP mix as well, particularly as you said, they came out flat. The Fire probably came out the opposite of flat on opening night.
They did. Yeah, they came out with a ton of energy.
Shreveport, Wichita, Potawatomi, of course. Look, Enid's got a good team again, too. As you say, the Central is very, very competitive. Fast forward to June, maybe it's Fire, Wichita for the conference final. Maybe it's Shreveport again.
Very possible.
You've been dominating. Is this sustainable? Are we seeing 50-point wins in the playoffs? What do you predict?
Probably not. Teams are gonna change. Teams are going to get better. I think that this team is very good. I think the Fire are very good. One thing that makes them so dangerous is they have a ton of depth. 1 through right now 11, but eventually 1 through 12 can lead the team in scoring any given night. The Fire have played 4 games and they've had 3 different leading scorers. The only guy who's led the team twice in scoring is Munson. So they have.
It's a good stat.
It is.
I'm writing that one down. I like that stat.
So they have guys who can lead this team in scoring, different guys who can lead this team in scoring on any given night. There was like the game against Little Rock. That was back and forth for 3 quarters. Fire ended up winning by 14, but it was much, much closer than that. And it actually took one of our bench players, Theo Johnson, to come in, and he hit a couple threes. The Fire hadn't been shooting the ball well, but he comes off the bench, hits a couple threes, and all of a sudden things start rolling. The Fire start seeing the ball go in the hoop, and it took one of those bench guys that night to really kind of get things started. And I think that's what makes this team so special, is they do have a lot of depth and they have a lot of guys that can beat you in many ways on any given night. Now, are they going to go out and win by 50 points, tomorrow when they play Enid? Probably not. That doesn't happen very often. But I think that they can. I think that they will play every team very tough, and I think they're going to be a tough team to beat every single night.
This is why I like having guys like you on, Chris. This is why you're coming back.
Okay.
Look, at the end of the day, I'm a newspaper man. I got to push headlines, all right? I need those retweets. So I'm going to push out names like Munson and Guy and Lyle Hexam. But you bring the actual knowledge of the game. So we're going to bring you on more often.
Absolutely.
To help us understand that it's not just about the guys at the top, but depth is a crucial element when a team is trying to win a championship.
Depth.
You say this team can go 1 through 12.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
and
terrifying.
you never know too if if somebody's going to sprain an ankle and be out for a couple games, 3 games, and somebody else is going to have to step up. And so I think that's the thing, and that's one thing that Coach Danoff has preached. That's one thing that all these guys have bought into is your time's going to come. It might not be right now. It might not be at the beginning of the season, but you're going to be called upon to put up big numbers at some point, and you're going to be called upon to go make plays to help your team win. And so far, everybody's been up to the task.
Next man up mentality.
Absolutely.
Chris, been a pleasure. Appreciate it, man. Again, first of anywhere between several and many conversations that we'll have here. Best of luck to you. Best of luck to the Potawatomi Fire, who at the moment seem like they may not need my luck granting, but nonetheless, I grant them my luck anyhow.
Thank you.
And thanks, Chris. See you again. See you again soon.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. And anytime you want to have me on, I'll be happy to join you.
Awesome. Sounds good, my friend. So, look, I don't have enough practice to have a sign-off, so I'll just say thanks again, Chris. TBL News, the video pod, signing off.
All right.
Cool.